The evidence shall give the court and the jury of the trial decision shall give the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, good afternoon. All right, Mr. Dean.
Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Dr. Amanda Puentes.
And what is your city and state of residence?
I live in Dade City, Florida.
And what kind of doctor are you?
I'm a pediatrician.
Where is Dade City?
It is about 26 miles northeast of Tampa, Florida.
And where do you work?
Currently, I work at Premier Community Healthcare Center in Dade City, Florida.
Is that do you work in like an outpatient pediatrics clinic?
Yes, it's an outpatient pediatric clinic.
Okay. Are you, what type of pediatrician are you?
I'm a general pediatrician.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
I graduated or finished residency in 2006.
And you are here today, just to kind of put it out up front, because you were Quinton Simon's last pediatrician.
Yes.
Okay. Before moving to Florida, did you work in the Savannah area?
Yes, I worked in Savannah, Georgia from 2017 to 2023.
And where did you work in Savannah during that time period?
I worked at J.C. Lewis Primary Healthcare Center, and we have our own building that's dedicated to pediatrics.
Okay. And that's an outpatient pediatrics clinic?
Yes, it's an outpatient.
And is that where you saw Quinton?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back now to education, training, and experience. Can you tell us about your undergraduate education?
Yes, I completed a Bachelor of Science honors degree through the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida.
And did you go immediately to medical school, or did you work after undergrad, or what?
I was able to start medical school right after I graduated with my undergrad in
And where did you-
1999
I'm sorry. Where did you go to medical school?
at the University of South Florida Medical School as well in Tampa, Florida
And when did you finish up medical school?
in the year 2003.
Now, after graduating from medical school in 2003, did you do a residency?
Yes, I did a pediatric residency program in the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and Creighton University. Dual program in Omaha, Nebraska.
What is a residency?
A residency allows a doctor to kind of more specialize, or the first step to specialize in a certain area. So you have pediatrics, you have internal medicine, which is primarily adult medicine, you have surgery, for example.
And dermatology, emergency medicine, all the different specialties?
Yes,
Right. So you did your residency in pediatrics?
yes,
And is that essentially the first step to becoming a pediatrician?
yes. It's, well, the first and only step to becoming a pediatrician.
And how long was your residency program at, you said, a
3
dual
years.
program at Creighton and University of
Yeah, just both of those school funded and provided the education.
Okay. 3 years of that pediatrics residency. What did the residency involve?
It involved different areas of pediatrics, so not only outpatient, but inpatient, intensive care unit experience with the real small babies that are premature, as well as children, say that are very sick in the hospital, emergency medicine for pediatrics, psychiatric experience just under pediatric age group.
So during residency, you do a little bit of everything peds related.
Yes,
Okay. When did you finish residency?
I finished in 2006.
And at that point, did you get any kind of board certification or anything along those lines to be a pediatrician?
I was taking the board exam.
Okay. And do you hold any certifications or remember?
I'm a board certified pediatrician
And how long have you been?
since 2022.
All right. Since finishing residency, have you worked as a pediatrician uninterrupted through
Yes.
today? Okay. And so how many years would that be total?
So that would be 18 years.
I'm sorry to ask you to do that.
Going on 18 years.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would offer Dr. Puentes as an expert in pediatrics.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Okay. I'd like to turn now to your involvement with Quinton. Okay. Can you tell us where, when, and under what circumstances you saw him?
So I saw him as a new patient in February of 2022. He came in for a 12-month well visit, although technically he was 13 months.
And what is a well visit?
So a well visit is a physical exam type visit that we go over safety in the household, developmental questioning to see where a child and make sure a child is developing normally, as well as administering vaccines if the parent would like their child to get the shots.
Is it fair to refer to a well child visit as essentially like a normal checkup?
Yes.
In other words, was he brought in because there was any specific health complaint, or was it just a routine visit?
It was a routine visit.
Okay. And tell us about your examination of Quinton that day.
That day, I mean, he was healthy, happy. I saw him with his grandmother, who he was in care of at the time. And developmentally, he was appropriate for his age, talking, walking, everything on time. And then on physical exam, I did detect a heart murmur.
Okay. And can you tell us what you did in response to that?
So because of the heart murmur and at his age, and oftentimes my patients through this clinic I may never see again, I referred him to a cardiologist.
And what cardiologist was that?
It was through the Savannah Children's Heart Center here in Savannah.
Do you remember the specific doctor?
It's, according to his records, is Dr. Birch.
Okay. Was that heart murmur something that caused you any serious concern?
No.
Can you tell us why not?
So a heart murmur doesn't automatically mean there's something structurally wrong with the heart. It can just tend to be, at the time when you hear it, a difference in pressure through the heart, so a difference in blood flow. Oftentimes, sometimes the next person, even within minutes, another doctor could have listened and not heard a heart murmur.
Did Dr. Birch did Quinton then have a visit with Dr. Birch?
Yes, he then, within a couple weeks, had a visit with Dr. Birch.
And did Dr. Birch get back to you about his assessment of Quinton's heart murmur?
Yes, he sent me the office visit notes.
And was there anything about what Dr. Birch told you that altered your initial impression that this wasn't anything to be especially concerned about?
No, there wasn't. No concern.
Overall, would you describe Quinton as having been in good health, happy, normal child when you saw him?
Yes.
And did you ever see anything that changed that opinion one way or the
No.
other? Okay. Prior to your testimony in this case, did I ask you to review essentially all of his medical records for his entire life?
Yes, you did.
Did you review his birth and neonatal records from Flowers Hospital in Atlanta?
Yes, I did.
Did you review some prior pediatrics records from a clinic in Waynesboro, Georgia?
Yes, I did.
Did you review some records for an emergency room visit at either St. Joseph's Hospital or Candler Hospital?
Yes, I did.
And what were those for? What was that visit about?
The visit at St. Joseph's Candler was an acute visit where he had had cough and runny nose
Okay. Pretty normal for a
and
kid.
fever. Very normal for emergency room visit.
Okay. And did you also review the complete records from the Savannah Children's Heart Center?
Yes, I have.
Right. But after that review, did you identify any documented condition that might have been life-threatening or anywhere close to life-threatening?
No.
Any reasonable medical possibility that Quinton just died in his sleep on the night of October 4th?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
She's been tendered and admitted as an expert, Your Honor. She can testify in the form of an opinion.
It's an ultimate issue in the case, Judge.
That's not the ultimate issue.
I'm going to allow the question.
Okay. Any reasonable medical possibility that Quinton would have just died in his sleep for no reason on October 4th, 2022?
No.
Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Quinton, let's pick up where Mr. Dean just left off.
Okay. Does anyone just die for no reason?
No. Yes.
Okay. Who? What would be the no reason that could occur where someone would die for no reason?
There's reports of adults, elderly, that will get a sudden arrhythmia and lead to sudden death.
But wouldn't the arrhythmia then be the reason for the death?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a nonsensical question, isn't it? There's always some reason for a death, correct?
If it can be proven.
Correct. What if it can't be proven? What if you don't know the manner, method, time? Does it mean someone's less dead? No, it doesn't, does it?
No, they're still dead.
Okay. So, but since you're a pediatrician, you're board certified, correct?
Yes.
And since Mr. Dean asked the question, I'll ask the question and take it a little bit further. Do you ever do postmortems on children?
No.
Okay. Have you ever done postmortems on children?
No.
Not something you're trained in?
No.
Okay. The manner that you treat children, is it usually the health and wellness checks? Or have you ever done like emergency room visits or treatments?
A little bit of both, because some of the acute care can be involved enough to even call the ambulance to come to the office.
Okay. So, and whenever those children are in your treatment, okay, have any of those children died?
No.
Okay. So, when you did treat them, it was usually something that required some sort of immediate intervention, correct?
Yes.
And you got it for them, correct?
Yes.
and then they recovered, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about Quinton Simon in particular. You said you reviewed all of his wellness records and all of his medical records, correct?
Yes.
So the heart murmur was of concern and note, but you referred him to the heart center and treatment was followed up on, correct?
Yes.
And Dr. Birch, I believe it was, didn't seem to be concerned and neither did you, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So with regards to the Wayne County records, anything of note there?
No.
Okay. And I think you said you also reviewed the birth and neonatal records from Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
Anything of note there?
No.
Okay. Did you see anything in the birth or neonatal records that would raise your hackles or be of any concern to you with this child's health or well-being?
No.
Okay. Now, who was it that brought the child in to see you, I guess, in February of 2022, or do you not know?
No, his grandmother did, along with what grandma referred to as a nanny.
And that was in February, correct?
Yes, 2022.
And you also had a June 6th visit as well, or was that a different doctor?
That was the emergency room visit.
Okay, but that wasn't you.
No, that wasn't me.
But again, you reviewed those records, and again, nothing of any note or concern beyond, I guess it was a cough and runny nose, you said?
Yes, no concern.
Okay. And you're a mandated reporter, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury what that means?
So I'm obligated to report a suspicion of child abuse or neglect. Any concerns, I'm supposed to report it to law enforcement.
And is there any special training you go through to do this job, to be a mandated reporter, or is it just part of your normal medical training?
It is, I guess, tutorials, a few hours of explaining mandated reporter, cases that it would come up or that might lead you to be suspicious in order to report, and then also how to report.
And at any point in time, did you report any suspected abuse or neglect on Quinton Simon?
No.
That's all the questions I got.
You mentioned that it was his grandmother who brought him in when you saw him.
Yes.
You didn't report any abuse or neglect, right?
Yes.
But at the time you saw him, it seems that he wasn't even in his mother's custody, is that right?
Correct. He was.
Speculation.
The objection.
The objection is a cause of speculation of a legal matter, not a medical matter, which is qualified.
Mr. Dean, do you want to respond to that?
I'll withdraw the question.
Thank you.
No further questions.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Hilliard? Okay, doctor. Thank you. You're excused. The state may call its next witness.
Dr. Kenneth Birch.
Dr. Birch, if you would just come forward. You can mark this way, sir.
Stand right here for me, raise your right hand. Now, swear you will.
The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. You can mark this way. Watch your steps. You can adjust this microphone and speak a little bit.
All right, good afternoon.
I'm a pediatric cardiologist
And where do you work, sir?
at Savannah Children's Heart Center in Savannah.
Are you a medical doctor, sir?
Yes,
You said you're a pediatric cardiologist.
that's correct.
And are you here today because you briefly treated Quinton Simon, the victim in this case?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a little bit about your education, training, and experience. Can you tell us about your undergraduate education?
Undergraduate, I went to Augusta College in Augusta, Georgia.
Did
4
you go?
years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you
Just
go,
went 4 years, yeah.
4 years. Okay. Did you go immediately to medical school?
No, didn't, had a year before I was accepted, and then I went to 4 years of medical school, then I did 3 years of pediatric residency, and then 3 years of pediatric cardiology fellowship.
Where did you go to medical school?
Medical College of Georgia,
And when did you graduate?
1982.
You mentioned that you did was it a pediatric residency or a cardiology residency?
Well, a residency was general pediatrics.
Okay.
So I did 3 years of that at the medical college there. And then I was fortunate that they thought enough of me to go ahead and offer me a fellowship in pediatric cardiology there before I was halfway through my second year of residency. So I stayed and did 3 years there
Our last
in
witness,
fellowship.
I'm sorry. Our last witness, Dr. Quinton, has explained to us what a medical residency is, but I don't think we've heard what a fellowship is after residency. Can you tell us what a fellowship is?
Well, a residency, you sort of do a lot of different things. But when you do a fellowship, you're specifically focused on one particular subspecialty. In my case, it was pediatric cardiology.
Is it fair to say that in your residency you gain your specialty, but in your fellowship you get a subspecialty?
That's correct.
Okay. When did you finish your pediatric cardiology fellowship?
1988.
And have you been working as a pediatric cardiologist uninterrupted since then?
Yes, sir.
Tell us where you've worked as a pediatric cardiologist.
Well, initially was employed, if you will, by Memorial Medical Center starting July 1988, and worked in the pediatric department there doing pediatric cardiology until 1995, and I went out in private practice April 1st, 1995, and formed Savannah Children's Heart Center. I've been there ever since.
Now, as a pediatric cardiologist, how do you get patients? Where are these patients coming
They're
from?
referred.
Referred by whom?
Typically, other general pediatricians.
And what causes a general pediatrician to refer a child to a pediatric cardiologist? What kind of things?
Well, there are very various different reasons. One of the most common, particularly in a young child, is because they hear a noise or a murmur when they listen. We also see kids for passing out, chest pain, all kind of other complaints. But
Now, can you tell us about Quinton Simon's being referred to you?
I believe that Dr. Prince heard a murmur, and I think it was a new finding, from what I gather. And so he was referred for us to evaluate.
And tell us about that evaluation.
Okay. Well, how much? What do you want to know? Everything, or just? I'm not. I mean.
Can you do like a 1 minute?
Yeah. So basically, when he came into the office, he had a EKG performed, which was normal. Then I went into the room, and he was there with his grandmother, and he looked fine. Respiratory rate was normal, heart rate normal. His weight was above the 75th percentile for his age. He looked like he was thriving, and so I listened to him and examined him. He had a soft little murmur. So then we went and did the echocardiogram, where we actually look at the heart, and that's where we. So two minor things. One was a patent foramen ovale, and the other was a very small, what appeared to be a coronary artery fistula into the PA.
The first thing you said was you said it really fast.
Patent foramen ovale.
PFO. What is that?
Well, patent foramen ovale is a normal structure actually that all babies have before they're born. Okay, it's open in such a manner so that the blood that's coming up from the placenta, because mother's providing everything, is preferentially directed across that opening, if you will, to the left side of the heart. So most of it gets pumped out, to the body, as opposed to going back into the lungs, which are full of fluid and the vessels are constricted. And then after they're born and the pressures change in the heart, then it just sort of flaps shut, if you will. But very commonly, it doesn't necessarily meet like it's supposed to, and takes time to close up and go away. Typically, large patent foramen ovales, about 80% of them close. Small ones, 90-95%. But a small patent foramen ovale is restrictive, doesn't have a lot of shunting going from, because the shunt direction changes after they're born. Okay, the pressure in the lungs goes down, so now the left side of the heart has a higher pressure than the right side. Okay, if it's got your blood pressure, i.e. in your pump pressure in your lungs is like a third of that. But anyway, so the direction of the shunt changes, and then what the criteria for intervening or closing it, or whatever you want to say, has to do with how big it is.
You mean surgically?
No, you can close it with devices.
Okay.
But sometimes it's surgically, it just depends. But if it's small and restrictive, and the right side of the heart is normal, you leave them alone, because you're actually probably going to do more harm than good, closing it, if you will. And his was very tight. Okay.
And Mr. Before you go further, was that PF or FPL?
PF. Freeman, F-O, yeah.
Okay, and Madam Court,
Oh, I can help out.
yes, please.
Is that spelled P-A-T-E-N-T,
Peyton?
new word F-O-R-A-M-E-N,
Mhm.
new word O-V-A-L-E?
That's correct.
All right, we got it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I can say PFO if you want me to.
So was any intervention indicated for?
Not for that, no.
Okay. Would you consider this a minor issue?
I would consider, you're talking normal activities, no limitations on activities, typically shouldn't have any effect on life expectancy. And like I say, he was only 13 months old when I saw him, so there was still a good or a high probability that it was going to close up anyway.
By around what age?
Usually, most of them close around 12, 15 months of age, but I've had some that were a little older, 2, 3 years, that, some that you're looking at thinking, well, these may be large enough for us to do something about, and we typically, if we do need to do something, if they're large enough, we typically don't address that until they're 3, 4, 5 years of age. So, he
Is
was
that because you're waiting for it to just resolve?
waiting for it to resolve, as well as getting the child older, so everything is easier to do, particularly if you're going to do it with a device.
Now, you mentioned, I think, also a coronary artery fistula that you observed.
I
Can you
did.
tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a very rare type of finding in the sense where I think it's about 0.01, maybe 0.02%. You see congenital. Now, this is a congenital one. There are coronary fistulas that you may see in adults that are undergoing bypass surgery and other kind of things, but I'm talking about a congenital one. And basically when the heart forms, basically it's a single tube actually when you first start, and then involutes on itself and so forth. So a lot of the structures are very close to each other. And sometimes, most commonly, the left anterior descending coronary artery may not actually totally close up from the pulmonary artery. So you may have a connection there, and that's called a fistula. And the size of the fistula dictates what you do, meaning that if it's a small coronary fistula, less than like 1 centimeter or much less than the size of the coronary artery, I'll put it that way, then we just watch those. And most of those will even close up and go away on their own. Now, when you talk about larger ones, moderate to large, those are a little different. Those many times will need to be taken care of. But typically, you'll see signs and symptoms with that. So it's not just looking and saying, oh, this is a small one. You're looking at other things as well. If it's a significant shunt, which means it's a big one, okay, into the coronary, then the heart's going to be dilated. There's going to be increased flow to the lungs. The child's going to be short of breath. He's not going to eat well. He's not going to gain weight. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so forth. And obviously, though, and of course, one of the risks with it, if it's a large one, is that once they get up and start playing sports and so forth, that they could have an issue with ischemia or lack of oxygen to the heart. So you will repair those. Small ones, you watch. Sometimes they don't go away. So typically, when they're 10, 11, 12 years of age, when they reach that age where they're going to be affected by peer pressure or parental pressure to continue to compete. Whereas when they're little, they get tired, they stop. When they get a little older, they try to run that extra lap or whatever. That's when you can get in trouble if you have an issue. So we'll exercise them and make sure everything is okay, depending upon the size of it. But I've had kids with small coronary fistulas that play competitive athletics, high school, college, and so forth. Never have an issue.
What about
His
Quinton?
was tiny.
Tiny?
Tiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would either, now you,
You almost don't even want to mention it, but it's there, so you have to. Does that make sense?
we called you in here just to cover all bases.
Okay, all right.
That's why you're here. Were either of these findings that you've described of any serious concern to you?
No.
And you say this as a pediatric cardiologist of 30-some years experience?
That's correct. I've only had one coronary fistula that we've ever had to repair, and that was back in the 90s. The rest of them,
Only one that you ever had to repair? Okay.
and the patient did well.
And how many kids have you seen with
It's not
these
very
things?
common. I don't know, 20, maybe 15 over the years. I don't, keep that number because most of the time it's almost an incidental finding, if you will, because they're so small that you don't want to make a major issue out of it because then it may interfere with the child's normal activities and so forth because everybody's going to be worried that something may happen.
How many times did Quinton come to see you?
Just one time.
What was the plan going forward?
He was supposed to come back in 6 months. And so I saw him on February 28th, if I'm 2022, if my memory is correct. And so he was supposed to come back in August, and he didn't show. And then, I don't know the details of the dates right in there, but somehow we were trying to track him or get him. It came to light that that he had died.
I don't know that I did this earlier, Your Honor, but I would offer Dr. Birch as an expert in pediatric cardiology.
No objections, sir.
Okay, thank you.
In your opinion, is there any reasonable medical possibility, well, let me ask you this. Were either of these conditions life-threatening in your view,
No,
even remotely so?
no, sir.
Is there any reasonable medical possibility that they just caused his son death one night?
I guess anything is possible in the world. However, I would say this, I've never seen an issue with these defects this small ever creating an issue. I mean, any symptoms or whatever, much less death, you know.
Thank you, sir. One moment, please. No further questions.
Dr. Birch, these are rare conditions, correct?
No, pain from the belly is very common. The coronary fistula is a rare condition.
And it's not often I get to talk to a cardiologist, so I'm going to ask some questions. I know it's probably for you, stuff you're used to dealing with, but just out of curiosity, you said the PFO. How common is that in children?
Well, actually, it's a normal structure that all babies have. It's the ones that don't close after the birth. Like if you were to go into the nursery, hypothetically, and do an echocardiogram on every baby that was born in the first 24 hours, they probably 95 to 98% of them still have a patent frame no valley.
Okay. And let's talk about the fistula. How common is that?
That's not common. It's like less than 1%.
Okay. And since one is fairly common and one is not very common, the combination of the two, how common is that?
I have no idea. I mean,
Have you ever seen it before?
oh yeah.
Okay. So and I assume what you were talking about, Mr. Dean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, about 15 or 20 times, I guess you would say, since one is
Something to that effect. I mean, you know, like I said, I could go back and probably look it all up for you, but
No.
it's not very common.
It's not a very common thing. Okay.
Although I will say this is becoming more common because our technology is a lot better. When we look with the echocardiograms and the color flow, then you're seeing more things now that you didn't see previously. Does that make sense? And so, you know, so you're seeing them, but still, it's not necessarily, you know, anything that you would certainly do anything about unless it's, you know, moderate to large in size.
Well, let's talk about that. So technologies, you've been a pediatrician now, I believe, since the 80s, so probably 40 years now, right?
82.
Okay. So, and I assume technology advancing does help in the diagnosis and treatment of a lot of these disorders, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, I guess, 40 years ago, these things wouldn't have been diagnosed or as common as they are now, correct?
In the moderate to large, you would probably hear them, okay, because it'd be more of a continuous murmur. And if you got one large enough, then you'll hear it. Now, I have a patient that has one that you can definitely hear, but hemodynamically, it's not significant enough that, I referred her to be considered for having it closed, and they did the catheterization, looked at it, came back and said that it wasn't large enough to warrant intervention at this time.
Okay.
So,
Well, and let's talk about, what was it, the fistula that you said that could become an issue later on if it didn't close or do what it's supposed to do?
no, I didn't.
Or was it PFO?
No, not PFO.
As you can tell, I don't know much about this.
No, it's okay. That's okay. The PFO typically will either close them, go away, or stay the same size. They don't typically get bigger. Okay. The coronary fistula, the real small ones, like Quinton had, typically close up and go away, or mainly stay the same size. Okay. The moderate to large ones, they can increase in size over time. So that's why you would address those sooner. Now, someone like Quinton with a very small one, you would watch him just to make sure that it doesn't progress, and look at the size of his coronary arteries and make sure there's no dilatation and so forth and so on, just to make sure that you're not going to have or try to prevent any issues. I'll put it that way. But unless you're seeing some significant shunning and so forth, these are typically patients are typically asymptomatic.
And let's talk about the opposite of that. I mean, most of them are asymptomatic, but if something was going wrong or there was shunning, and what would be the signs and symptoms? How would you know?
As I mentioned earlier, particularly in the small child like Quinton, he would actually be in what's called congestive heart failure. Okay, and that's a bit of a misnomer when you talk about congestive heart failure, like in someone like me, because the heart is still functioning fine. The problem with it is a lot of the blood is when it goes in the coronary artery, it goes out the fistula to the artery to the lungs, and then it comes back to the left side of the heart. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, and so the left side of the heart will begin to dilate, and but also you have what's called pulmonary overcirculation, and that's where the symptoms come from. And you can get edema, so they're short of breath, they're easy fatigability. In youngsters that are nursing or bottle feeding or whatever, they're usually tachypnic or breathing fast, and so their major activity obviously is eating. You know, they don't get them run around, so what happens to them is they can't coordinate sucking, swallowing, and breathing. Okay, so they tire, they don't finish the bottle or whatever, and they don't gain weight. So that's one of the parameters you always look at in a situation where if there's a question in your mind, is this child doing fine or not? Because I think the heart was a little big or whatever. You look at their weight and so forth, and if they're above 50th percentile or so, and like Quinton was above the 75th percentile, so he wasn't having any issues eating or any of those types of things. So.
Doctor, thank you so much. You've been very informative.
Well, thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
Just a moment. Mr. Dean?
No regret.
Thank you. Doctor, thank you. You're excused. Okay, the state may call its next witness.
Paul Simon.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you have evidence you shall give the court and jury of the trial of this issue, shall give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Step this way.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, how you doing today?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing good, how about you?
Doing pretty well. And you are the defendant's brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you mind if I call you Paul?
No, sir. Go ahead.
If you prefer Mr. Simon, let me know.
No,
and
you
I'll
can call
do it.
Paul.
Okay. How old are you, Paul?
23.
And what is your city and state of residence? Where do you live now?
I live in Eden, Georgia.
Do you work?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
I do construction and I'm a manager at AutoZone.
Did you grow up in the area?
Yes, sir.
Where'd you go to high school?
New Hampstead.
Okay. I want to draw your attention to the fall of 2022. Do you remember the general time period I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where were you living in the fall of 2022?
535 Buckcarter Road.
And whose house is that?
My mother's.
Okay. And where were you staying in that house during that time period?
Upstairs and towards the back side of the house.
When had you started living there?
3 to 4 months prior.
Prior to what?
Prior to the incident.
Okay. Now, where had you lived before that?
With my aunt,
Okay. What's her name?
Jackie.
Okay. So you lived with your Aunt Jackie and then you moved back in with Mom at some point?
Yes, sir.
Were you working in that time period?
Yes, sir. I was working at a warehouse. I can't remember the name. It was Eclipse, I believe.
Okay. Was it the same place that your sister and Danny worked?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about a normal day there. What did you do?
We loaded packages up onto trailers and moved them around the warehouse into different trailers all day. Just stacking them and wrapping them and sending them off.
Now, when you moved into your mom's house a couple months before what you described as the incident, were your sister and Danny and the 3 kids already living there?
Yes, sir.
Had Sky already been born at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me, what was it like living there with everybody in that house?
Well, pretty much every day, from what I heard and saw, it was just arguing every day. I mean, not between the kids or nothing like that, but it was between Leilani and Danny.
Okay. What about your mom?
Whenever my mom was there, they did argue quite a good bit.
And who's that?
Leilani and my mom.
Okay. Let's go to the morning of, well, let me ask you this. Tell me about the kids, the 3 kids, Zane, Quinton, and Sky.
Zane, hyper, want to be in everybody's business. Well, I mean, that's average for his age, you know what I mean? And then Quinton, he was an angel. Like, you could change his diaper, he'd lift his butt right up for you. No problem at all with it. You put the diaper, you tell him to lower his butt, he'd lower it, let you clean them all up, no problem at all. Zane, that boy had crap all up his head one time, and Lonnie made me clean it in the back of the car. Man, that was a whole, I don't know how I managed that one.
Can I ask you this? Did you participate in the child care at all during your time living in the house?
Kinda. It was on and off. It was whenever they needed me.
Yeah. Tell us about your interactions with kids.
So a few times I had to take them to doctor's appointments, which wasn't a problem because, you know, people was at work, you know, and I happened to have the day off or whatever, you know. So I'd take them to the doctor's appointment because I didn't have to be at work till 2. And then I'd drop them off at the babysitter. And then whenever Leilani would need me to watch them, I'd watch them upstairs. I'd bring some toys upstairs in my room and let them play with it. Tell them, hey, that's your area. Don't mess with none of my stuff. You know?
Tell me about watching them upstairs in your room.
They just sit there, play with the toys, want a whole lot of snacks. And of course, I wouldn't give them snacks right away, you know. You ain't about to be all hyped up on me.
Does this include Sky, or are you talking mainly about Zane and Quinton?
Zane and Quinton, I didn't actually watch Sky. She was still, you know, relatively young, you know, like 3 or 4 months old, somewhere around there. So I didn't actually watch Sky, but I watched Zane and Quinton quite a bit whenever they needed me to.
Did you ever help them, you know, and maybe not because of the shift you work, but did you ever help them getting them dressed in the morning, getting them fed, getting them bathed and put down at night or anything like that?
I bathed them once or twice when I was there. And as far as feeding, I would help with that, but it was more so when I was there, because I was working from 2 to 10, so they'd usually eat between 6 and 9 at night, give or take those time periods.
Now, you started saying some nice things about Quinton earlier, and I did not follow up, and I guess I'll do that now. What was your relationship like with Quinton?
Well, he loved me. I mean, he'd come up to me, he'd put his arms over my knees, and I'd just sit there and bounce him for a good hour or 2 till my legs got tired. You know, he weighed a good 20, 30 pounds. But I mean, I loved him. I mean, I tell him to shut up. But I mean, that was about as mean as it got towards him with me, you know what I mean? You know, kids don't want to stop talking.
What did your, during the time period that you're working at Eclipse and working the 2 p.m. shift that you've mentioned, what did a normal day look like for you? Not talking about any particular day, but just kind of give us an example.
I'd get up in the morning between 9, 10 o'clock-ish, usually, and then watch some TV, get up, take my dog out, let him use the bathroom, bring him back in the room, continue watching some TV, and then get ready and go to work. I mean, it was just, you know, either TV or playing a video game.
What about after work?
After work, I'd get off, just like I said at the police station. I'd get off, roll me a blunt, and go on about my day.
Tell me about the blunt rolling and the going on about your day.
I'd sit there in the parking lot because I wasn't going to try to drive and roll at the same time, you know what I mean? So I'd sit there in the parking lot, roll. Then as I was driving down the road, I would light it up and smoke on the way home because my mom had a strict rule of no smoking in her car, so you'd have to roll down the windows to be able to smoke in the car.
What car were you driving around the time of the incident?
The 2012 Silverado.
Okay. What color is that?
White.
Okay. Is that the truck that was parked next to the Dodge Journey when the police arrived?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me what you would do when you get home.
I'd get home, I'd go upstairs, let the dog out, then probably smoke again, and then go to bed. Watch a little bit of TV if I had enough time, and then go to bed.
Tell us about the dog. When did you get the dog?
I got the dog when I was still working at FedEx in 2019. He passed away January 1st this year from a bandit's heartworm disease.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and but he was my pride and joy. I loved that little fool.
You said what now?
He was a little fool. He was a little retard. That's what he was.
Pardon me. What was the dog's name?
Rimshot.
Rimshot?
Mm.
Are you a drummer?
I'm not, but you know that's a name from Ernest. Have you ever seen any of the Ernest movies?
Like Ernest Saves Christmas?
Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Saves Halloween.
And there's a character named Rimshot in this movie?
It's his dog.
And that's your dog's namesake. Okay. I know you had told me before the dog was named Rimshot, but I don't know why. Okay. Where did the dog stay when you were at work?
He would stay, Leilani would watch him whenever she was home, or he would go outside and stay on the lead.
Okay. On the lead, can you tell me what you're talking about?
Long 25, 30 foot leash.
And what was that attached to?
A ground hook.
Okay. And where would he stay when you were home?
He would stay upstairs with me.
Is that where he slept?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about so we've talked about kind of your general typical day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the day before the police came to your house, okay? We'll talk about that day, October 4th, 20.
Did you sign the house for mine? You can respond with yes or no.
Yes, sir.
The court's trying to take it all down.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
All right. The day before the police came to your house, did you work that day?
I did.
as far as you remember, was it pretty much a normal day for you?
Yes, sir.
And is it not until the next morning that it became abnormal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk about going to work. What time were you scheduled to work that day?
I was scheduled to go in at 2 p.m. I had went in early that day. I don't remember exactly what time I went in.
And do you remember why it was that you went in early?
Because Leilani wasn't able to go in that day. And so Danny had texted her and asked if I could come in early, is what I believe was what happened.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 88. Can you take a look at this? Just read it carefully, take a look at the phone numbers, and I want to ask you about it, okay?
That's my old number, and that was Danny's number.
The document that I just handed you, is that the text message exchange between Danny Youngkin and you
Yes, sir.
from October 4th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
Does it fairly and accurately depict the text messages that you exchanged?
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, I would offer this as State's Exhibit 88.
No objection, Judge.
Now, the first message on there is from who to whom?
The first message is from Danny to me.
And what's the time of that message?
10 in the morning.
Okay.
10:15.
And what did Danny say to you?
He said, "Yo, Dave wanted to know if you'd go in at 12. I'm at the dentist with Leilani. She just got her tooth pulled."
Yo, Dave wanted to know if you would go in at 12?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Dave Mullins? Or
Yes, sir.
Mullen?
It was the GM that was running Eclipse.
Okay. Was he your boss or at least one of your bosses?
He was one of them. He was the morning shift boss.
Okay. And did you respond to that message from Danny?
Yes, sir. I said I'd be in.
And what time did you send that message?
20 minutes after I received it.
Okay. So from there, did you go into work?
Yes, sir. I got there probably about 11:30.
And was it a normal day at work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, tell us about finishing up work and getting ready to come home.
So I had got out of work. I went and sat in the car, and that night I had got stopped by a train. So I ended up getting home at 10:50 instead of my normal time, which was 10:30.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And that night before I had left work, Leilani had texted me and asked me if I had any relos, which was blunt wraps, and I had responded to her and said yes, I'd be home in about an hour. And when I had got home at 10:50, I went in there to give her the pack of relos, and she wasn't there.
Okay. So you said that she texted you before you.
It was either a text or a phone call.
Okay. And asked you if you.
We'd bring her a pack of relos, which was blunt wraps.
What is that word you're saying? I'm sorry.
Relos.
Relos?
Cigarillos?
Oh, okay. Cigarillos.
Yeah.
Is that what GAR means?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cigarello?
Yeah, cigar.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 89. Can you take a look at this document and let me know when you're ready to talk about it? Take a careful look at the numbers and the messages and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Flip to the second page here if you would.
My bad.
All right, do you recognize those messages?
Yes, sir.
Are those messages between you and your sister on the night of October 4th?
Yes, sir.
Do they fairly and accurately depict the messages that you exchanged with each other?
Yes, sir, and around the same time. Because at that time, it took me about 30 minutes to roll. So I was sitting there in the parking lot for 30 minutes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 89.
No objection, Judge.
I don't know. I know you talked about your general practice of rolling a blunt
Mm-hmm.
In the parking lot after work. Would you smoke it there as well?
I would be driving on my way home smoking. Like
Okay.
I said, that night I got stopped by the train, so it took me an extra 20 minutes to get home.
Okay. So let me ask you, do you see this message here, this 9:46 p.m. message?
Mhm.
Right. And that is that one from your sister?
Yes, sir.
And what does she say to you?
Can you grab me a car on your way home, please?
All right, so are you still at work at that point?
I was.
Okay. Had you clocked out yet?
No. I had my phone on me, but I wasn't supposed to, so.
Oh, okay, I see. The next message is from who to whom?
From Leilani to me. She was sending a question mark afterwards because she always forgets to send her question marks.
Okay, so we got, can you grab me a car on your way home, please, at 9:46 with no question mark, and then she adds the question mark a few minutes later?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then I saw it right as I was clocking out,
All right, and you responded to that at what time?
right before 10 o'clock.
Okay, and what did you say?
I got some minis in the car.
I
Well,
got-
I got minis, but
All right, so we'll read the message just as it appears on the page, and then I'm going to ask you what you mean.
I got minis. I got some minis.
I got some minis, and what does that refer to?
Mini cigarillos.
Okay. And where were you at the time you sent that message? You said you just clocked
I'm
out?
just walking out the building.
Okay. And what's the next message?
She said, okay, you on the way? I said, in a minute. And
What
it's
time did you say in a minute?
at 10:03,
All right, and would you have been in the parking lot at that point, I guess?
getting in the car.
Okay, and then what was the last message?
Okay.
And that was from her to you
Yes, sir.
at 10:03 p.m. All right, so no more text messages between the two of you that night? And-
No, sir. My bad.
So that brings us to your getting home and her not being there, you said, right? Tell us about your arrival at the house.
So I got home and I noticed that the Dodge Journey wasn't there.
Okay.
And so I had went inside, I had the minis in my hand, and I had asked Danny, I said, where's Leilani at?
Where was it that you encountered Danny?
He was sitting on the bed right in front of to the door going into the bedroom.
Okay, he's sitting on the bed in his bedroom, his and your sister's bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you've got the minis in your hand,
Yes, sir.
because you're coming to bring them to your sister. She is not there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you see the children at this point?
I did. I don't remember exactly what they were doing, but I know that Quinton was awake. He was in his playpen, and Zane was laid down on his race car bed.
Did you have any air? How do you know Quentin was awake? Tell me what you saw.
He was saying Danny. He was laying there, but he was saying Danny, just like that.
Is that something that he would do?
Yes.
Can you describe, like, was it just like normal kind of babbling from a child? Or?
He would say Danny's name repeatedly. I don't know if it was because it was easy for him to say, because it's only 2 syllables, Danny, you know what I mean? But that was one of the key words he said 95% of the time.
From your perspective, did Quentin seem to like Danny?
Mm-hmm.
Did they have a good relationship?
They had a decent one. I mean, Danny would get fed up with taking care of the kids all the time, but you signed up for it, brother. I mean, there's nothing else I can say to you. I can't sit here and say, don't be upset. You signed up for it.
So anyway, Quentin's laying, you said he's laying down in his packing place?
He was laying down, kind of, more or less. He was still getting, like, so he does a lot of talking before he would go to sleep. So he'd just sit there and say Danny or throw a little tantrum and then pass out, or it was one of the two. He didn't like being in a dark room.
Did anything seem to be out of the ordinary in that room at that time?
Not that I saw. I walked in there, told Quinton to shut up and go to bed, and went upstairs.
And did Danny seem to be acting abnormally?
He seemed a little agitated that he was having to watch the kids again.
Okay. Anything beyond that?
I mean, no more than his normal whining about having to do something he didn't want to do.
Now, how long did y'all interact with each other?
About 10 minutes in the bedroom before Leilani got home.
What was the nature of this?
Just talking. He was complaining about Leilani, which I was already used to and kind of getting a little bit annoyed of him whining. If you don't like it, leave. I mean, it's not that hard.
Now, did you have anything to eat when you got home that night?
No, I didn't.
Don't remember getting anything to eat?
I don't remember it.
Okay. Would it refresh your memory to look at some text messages between Danny and Leilani about that, perhaps?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, do you have Stacy's at 86 somewhere? Can you take a look at that second message from the top? You good?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But does that refresh your memory as to whether you had anything to eat or drink that night?
I probably grabbed some Hawaiian punch.
Okay.
Leilani was a little stingy about the kids' drinks and food now.
Now, after you probably or possibly had some Hawaiian punch, what did you do?
Went upstairs. I watched an episode of One Piece.
What is that?
One Piece is an anime.
Okay, it's an animation.
It was 23 minutes and 42 seconds exactly.
And what did you do after that?
Went to bed.
Did you come downstairs anymore that night?
No, sir.
Did you have to let the dog out or anything at any point?
No, sir. Not till he woke me up in the morning. Needed to use the bathroom, which was about 8:30ish. I got up at 9 and took him out.
Okay. What do you remember about that morning?
Just hearing yelling, and I thought it was the normal yelling. Then I come downstairs, and next thing I know, the house is surrounded by police.
Was that before or after you took the dog out?
After.
Okay.
But it was kind of like during, in the motion of me taking the dog out, all the police was pulling up.
All right. What do you remember hearing?
Just a whole lot of yelling. I couldn't make out exactly what it was. I was still half asleep, and I just kind of laid there until I heard it kind of die down or move away from where I could hear it. And then I got up and took the dog out.
Did you have any interaction with your sister that morning?
Not before she told me that Quinton was missing.
And where were you when she told you that, as far as you
Downstairs in the parking area.
out in the driveway?
Yeah, next to the next to the garage.
Okay. And what she look like at that point?
Complete mess, complete wreck. Trying to figure out where her baby was.
And what happened from there?
She had called the babysitter over to see if she saw anything, if she knew anything, and then the police was showing up at the same time as the babysitter had just showed up. And then the next thing I know, Danny's showing up.
And did you help look for Quinton?
Didn't get a chance to.
What do you mean?
By the time that everything was going on, we all got told we had to go down to police annex, and we was interrogated for over 17 hours by the FBI.
Did you 17 hours?
Yes, I kept track of it because they were supposed to get me pizza. I'm still mad about my pizza 2 years later.
I think we saw you on some video bringing your sister some food at some point.
Yeah, then they bought the pizza afterwards.
Okay. So you got some food that day in any case?
Yeah, because I bought it.
Okay. Because you bought it?
Yeah.
Did you?
I DoorDashed it.
You're saying you DoorDashed pizza to the police station?
After 12 hours of sitting there being interrogated, people get hungry.
Okay. So, regardless of whether you had a good time there that day, did you cooperate with the police questioning, the
Yes, sir.
FBI questioning?
Anything they asked me, I told them whatever I knew.
Okay. And did that continue to be the case over the coming days and weeks?
Yes, sir, even while they hooked me up to the lie detector test and everything.
One moment, please, John.
This might be a good time for a short break.
Matt, just finish up a couple of things. John.
Yes.
Okay. Do you, look, I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 90. I'm showing you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 90, okay?
And let me just say, just so that everything can be on the record. So Mr. Simon just apologized for not responding yes or no, and that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you take a look at these messages starting from the back, actually, and tell me if you recognize them?
Okay, so these are not text messages between me and Leilani. These are text messages between me and a coworker, and about a girl that thought that I was making a rumor about her, and I wasn't, and she threatened to hit us with her car. So we all kind of dipped out of there really fast.
Is this something that happened at work on the 4th?
Yes, this was nothing related to Leilani or Danny or anything like that.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to introduce this as State's Exhibit 90.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, exhibit 90 submitted.
Let me just ask you this. On the last page here, do you see this message where this person asks you at 11:40 p.m. what time you going in tomorrow?
I said 12 because I was already planning on going in early regardless because I needed the extra money.
And that response from you was at 11:40 p.m.?
That's why I was already getting up, but then when they asked me to come in, it made it even easier to come in without asking for permission from the boss.
Okay. And this was on the night of October 4th, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you already up in your room at this point?
Yes, sir. He had texted me after I had laid down to go to bed.
Okay. And was this your last phone activity that night?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, if I have not already formally offered 88, I would do so at this time. Those were the Paul Simon, Daniel Youngkin text messages.
I believe they may already be in. Madam Clerk?
That's correct, Ken.
Thank you.
And is that the case for 88, 89, and 90?
Not 90.
And 90 is just admitted.
90 was just a minute. Okay. One moment, please. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So there's mention of a break. I think this is a good time for a break. Back on the record now in SPCR 22-03364J6, the State of Georgia versus Leilani Marie Simon. Mr. Simon has taken his place once again on the stand. He understands he's still under oath. And Mr. Simon, you mentioned earlier about polygraph. There's been a motion in limine which the court is granting. Do not mention polygraph. I don't expect you'll be asked any questions, but don't volunteer any answers, any responses about a polygraph. Do you understand? Have any questions? All right. Is the state ready to proceed?
The state is ready, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
The defense is ready, Judge.
I was going to apologize for that. Did not realize that was a no-no.
You're fine, Mr. Simon. Thank you very much, though. Mr. Hilliard, I believe you have Mr. Simon on cross. When we have them. Jurors, please. Thank you, Solomon.
Jury's not entering.
Thank you, Birch. Good afternoon. Please have a seat. Thank you. Welcome back after that short break. Did anyone have any discussions about the case? Did anyone do any research? Okay. And with that, we will proceed. Mr. Hilliard.
Mr. Simon, my name is Martin Hilliard. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm pretty good. No complaints. I've got some questions for you, and I'm probably going to start on October 5th and work back a little bit. You were already at home on the morning of October 5th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you said you woke up, you went outside, took your dog outside.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to kind of approach the witness and show him State's Exhibit real quick.
I'll show you what's been marked in the State's Exhibit 9. If you would, the upstairs bedroom that you stay in.
Which bedroom is that? Does it overlook the pool? Does it overlook the front yard, the side yard?
It overlooked the pool and the driveway.
Okay.
Because the way the bathroom was faced was towards the outside driveway.
Okay.
Then the room I was in faced towards the inside of the driveway.
All right. So based upon what you're looking at right there, would it be above the dining room or the living room or somewhere in that area?
Above the living room.
By the living room?
Right above it.
Okay. And so you just look out over the pool and the patio and the parking area, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this other bedroom right here
Look towards the front.
is towards the front.
Yes, sir.
Just trying to get an orientation. All right, so you were at home that night, around the night of October 4th, around 11:40, was a text message between you and your coworkers that Mr. Dean was just talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
You remember sending that?
Yes, sir.
Were you awake?
I was trying to go to sleep, so I was kind of trying to end the conversation pretty fast.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I was already laid down at 11 to go to sleep, and so when a text message came through, it kind of woke me up a little bit.
Okay.
And so I was just trying to get it done and over with, but yeah, I was a little bit awake.
All right. Well, let's just talk about that. So you were a little bit awake. Did you hear any doors opening or closing, or a ruckus, or anything going on at that point in time?
No, sir.
Okay. And I don't know because I don't know anything about the house, but if the door for the living room or the dining room open or closed, can you hear that from upstairs or no?
You can hear a car door shut, but you can't really hear the door shut unless it's slammed.
Okay. So if the dining room door, the living room door shut, you wouldn't necessarily hear it.
No, sir.
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but if there's a car door outside slammed, you would definitely hear it.
Yes.
Okay. And so did you hear that at any point in time that evening?
Around about 11:20, I heard a car door shut, and it was Leilani coming back in from getting cigarillos. And I just kind of laid there and ignored it because I just finished my episode and I was heading to bed.
Okay. So about 11:20, you heard the car door shut. Now, in the morning times, do you hear when anybody leaves for work?
No, sir.
Okay.
Being passed out, I don't. After working, I don't really hear a whole lot.
Understandable. So you slept through the morning of October 5th till about 9:30, correct?
I woke up about 8:30, but I laid there until 9.
Okay. And you, at that point in time, had you heard anything?
I heard a little bit of yelling, but like I said, that was an everyday thing, so I just didn't pay no attention to it and laid there until I heard it move away where I couldn't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got up and let the dog out. And that was about 9 o'clock was when I got up.
And you said you heard some yelling. What yelling did you hear?
I just heard Leilani screaming, but I didn't know what she was screaming about or nothing like that. I just heard screaming.
All right. And you were taking the dog out when that happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said the police showed up and Daniel showed up, correct? Mm-hmm. And you said that you heard the yelling and the police showed up, and you said that Leilani was a complete mess, correct?
Yes, sir.
How about Daniel?
He wasn't really phased. He didn't look phased. He left work in a hurry, but other than that, the whole time he was more worried about what was going to happen to him throughout the whole thing, from what I saw.
Okay.
I mean, 3 days after it happened, he's up in North Carolina just that quick. Boom, gone. I mean, that just strikes me as not good, not right behavior when you're supposed to be.
When they make an objection, you have to stay.
Yeah.
Just a moment, I'm sorry. Was there an objection?
There was an objection, Judge. So.
Mr. Dean?
Non-responsive.
Sister.
Mr. Simon,
Just a moment.
you have to let me ask the questions,
Oh,
and
my
you have
bad,
to
I'm
answer them,
sorry.
okay? So you were there that day, and you were there all day, correct? On October 5th.
Yes, sir. Until the police took us.
Right. So you said when Danny got there, he seemed unfazed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You said Leilani was a mess, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you answer all the questions that were put to you that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm curious, at this point in time, how long had you known Daniel Youngkin?
About 4 months. All I really knew about him before that was that he was one of Leilani's baby daddies. That's all I knew about him before that.
All right. So, and when did you move into the house on Buckalter Road?
In about April, right after my birthday.
So, April of 2022?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this was in October of 2022, right?
Yes, sir.
So, and I guess when you moved in, Danny and Leilani and the kids were already there.
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay. Now, did you ever notice Danny and Leilani either using drugs or drinking?
Danny drunk every day.
Right.
He'd be riding down the road drinking a Fireball, a little shot, consistently every day.
All right. And you know, not being judgmental, but and Leilani smoked.
Yep, smoke weed.
And you did too.
Mm.
Did you ever see him do anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. And if anything else was done,
I would have told my mom.
okay. So that was not something you knew about.
No, sir.
All right.
And I believe Leilani knew that, and that's why she constantly tried to hide it. from me, that she was doing something that she didn't want me to know of.
Okay. And same thing for Danny, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So, was it uncommon for the back door? And again, if you don't know, that's fine. But how did you normally come in and out of the house when you?
Through the back door.
Okay. And was that pretty much how everyone entered the house?
Yes, sir.
And was it uncommon that those doors would be unlocked?
Normally, since I was the one that got off work, the last one to be home, it would be locked whenever my stepdad would be home. But if it was everybody else, I would be the one that locked the door before I went up to bed.
So, and that's kind of what I was getting to. Normally, you were the one who locked the door when you came in at night,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And do you have any recollection doing so this particular night, the
Yes,
night of
sir.
October 4th?
I locked it when I came in, and I went in and talked to Danny, and then went to bed.
And again, not being judgmental, but you smoke blunts. Do you smoke cigarettes, Paul?
I used to.
Okay. When did you quit?
About 3 years ago when I started vaping.
So you gave up cigarettes and started vaping.
Yes, sir.
Right. How about Leilani? She smoked cigarettes?
Yes, sir.
And how about Danny?
Yep.
Okay. And whenever they were smoking at the house, where would they normally go to smoke?
Either the front or the back.
Were there ashtrays out there?
There was ashtrays in the back on the back porch, and there should have been one on the front porch. Where Leilani started smoking after a few months of them moving down in that room.
Now, you said you came in the night of October 4th, and you saw Quinton, Zane, and Sky.
Guy was in the little swing thing, that's where she kind of just slept in that. Zane was in his race car bed in the corner of the wall, and Quinton was right at the foot of the bed in the playpen.
And they were all good at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And had you ever seen, you said Danny seemed agitated when you got home. Anything abnormal, or was it just his normal?
It was just his normal whining and complaining, but he just, like I said, he just seemed a little bit more agitated. But I was like, don't worry, man, she's going to be back here in a while.
Right.
She just rode up the road.
Did you ever see Leilani that evening?
I did not.
Okay.
I had already went to bed before I had saw her.
Okay. All right. And did you ever hear them two arguing or bickering at any point in time that evening?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I got, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dean, any redirect?
One moment, please. No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Simon, is there any reason not to excuse Mr. Simon?
Not on behalf of Ms. Simon, no.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Simon, you are excused, sir. This state may call its next witness.
Melanie Bowling, Your Honor.
Okay.
Please, the clerk will raise your right hand, please.
The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
This way, ma'am.
And I'm a mama.
What is your city and state of residence? What town do you live
Glenville, Georgia.
in? And how long have you lived in Glenville?
Going on 8, almost 9 years now.
Okay. Are you a little nervous this afternoon?
I am, I'm sorry.
I'm always a little nervous in court too. It's all right. If you need a break at any point, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the defendant?
I do.
How do you know her?
She used to live in the same neighborhood as me.
In Glenville, I presume?
Yes.
Okay. When you met her, how many children, if any, did she have in that?
When I first met her, she had no kids.
Okay. And how did you meet her?
I met her through her ex-boyfriend, Cody Warden, which is her first child's father. I met him first because he lived out there and they started dating, and that's how I met her. And I looked at her and him as like little siblings that I wanted to help guide in the right direction. But that's how I met her.
And did you all live near one another for a period of time?
We did. We were right next door for a period of time, and then there was a period of time where she lived like walking distance from where I lived.
Okay. And then at some point, did she move away from Glenville?
Yes.
Okay. At the time that she moved away, did she have any children?
Yes, she had Zane.
Okay. So the time that she moved in near you would have been sometime shortly before Zane's birth?
Yes, it was about maybe 6 months or so before she got pregnant with him.
Before she got pregnant?
Yes.
And then was she living next to you, or next door to you during her pregnancy?
Yes.
And did she continue to live next door to you during the time that she actually had Zane?
Well, down a little bit, down the dirt road a little bit, but yes, it was still in the same neighborhood.
Okay, so you're saying by the time she had Zane, she moved walking distance away?
Yes.
Was no longer right next door?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's kind of take chunks of time. Tell me about the nature of your relationship with her before she ever had Zane.
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, Cody, I met him first, and he was going through a hard time, so like my husband and I took them in as took him in as like a little brother to help guide in the right direction. She started dating him, and I got good vibes from her at first. I never suspected anything bad, and I kind of try to guide her in the right direction too. She ended up falling pregnant, and when she did, she was young, and I can relate to that because I was a teen mom myself. So I wanted to help her in any way possible to, with her child and be that support.
Were you friends with her during her pregnancy with Zane?
I was.
And did you remain friends with her after she gave birth to Zane and had him as a newborn?
I did, yes.
And did you all spend time together during both of those time periods?
Yes.
Did you spend time with her around both her and Zane?
Yes.
Okay. Were you all still living in the same town at the time she gave birth to Quinton?
No. I was, but she wasn't.
Okay. Can you tell me where she was and when she had left in relation to when she had Quinton?
So I know her and Cody moved to Alabama. That happened, and then I guess they broke up. She came back to Georgia to, I think, Waycross or somewhere, wherever Bubba Moss is from.
Waynesboro, is that right?
Waynesboro, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I get those mixed up. And she came back and she was staying with him in a camper, and she fell pregnant. They split up, and she went back to Alabama, and Cody helped her.
And you've talked about your contact with her during the time she lived near you.
Yes.
Right? In the same town.
Yes.
Did you all have daily or near daily contact at that point?
When she was pregnant with Quinton, it was about almost every other day, if not weekly.
Well, I want to ask specifically about when she lived in the same town as you.
Yes, every day.
Okay,
Yes,
every
sir.
day at that point.
Yes.
And then after she moved, and I understand it sounds like she bounced around a little bit.
She did.
What
And
was the nature of your contact with her after she moved away from Glenville?
text message and phone call, FaceTime.
And how frequently did you say that you would have contact with her?
So when she got with Bubba, it kind of drifted off a little bit, and I don't know why, I can't tell you why, but we drifted off a little bit, and then she would, be contact out the blue. She'd call me, I text her, I call her, she texts me, vice versa, just to see how we are doing, I always checked in on her to see if she was doing okay, if the kids were okay, how they're doing, how big they're getting, stuff like that.
Did you talk to her on the phone regularly during her pregnancy with Quinton?
Yes.
About how often?
She updated me, with every appointment that she had.
Did she talk to you during those phone calls about things that were going on in her life?
Yes.
And tell me again how you viewed the nature of your relationship with her.
I viewed her, like I said, as a little sister that I wanted to help guide in the right direction.
So you're close.
Yes.
During her pregnancy with Quinton, where you're having this regular telephone contact with her, did it include calls?
Yes.
Did it include text messages?
Yes.
Did it include FaceTime?
Yes, a couple times so I could see Zane.
Did you ever catch up over fairly long phone calls, or are we talking about like 1 or 2 minutes?
No, these were hour-plus long phone calls.
And that's during her pregnancy with Quinton?
Yes.
During that type of contact that you described, did she talk to you about the state of her relationship with Quinton's father, Henry Bubba Moss Jr.?
It was rocky. They were fighting a lot. A lot. Then was a time where they did break up, and she was depressed. Made some comments to me that were concerning, but they fought a lot.
Like, what kind of comments?
The comments that, which I, at the time, wanted to think maybe she was like depressed and going through something. That was my thought process, but thinking of it now, I don't know. But she would say how she wished maybe if I didn't have Quinton, if I would have had the abortion like Bubba wanted me to, he would still be here.
Now, is that something she said to you after Quinton had been born?
She has mentioned it after and while she was pregnant, yes.
Okay. And how did you react to those kind of comments?
It shocked me. I mean, I was like, like what? Coming with, I have 3 kids myself. I'm not the one to judge, someone on abortions and stuff, but she didn't want to have one, and that's on her, okay? But I did not. It was really shocking. I didn't agree with it, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
I want to ask you a couple more questions about those kind of remarks.
Yes.
You said that she made those remarks both before Quinton was born and after Quinton had been born?
Yes.
Roughly how many times did you say you remember her saying things like that?
Off the top of my head, but while she was pregnant with him and right after he was born, I'd say about 2 or 3 times.
Okay. And you said that the nature of the comment was, maybe if I had had the abortion, Bubba would still be with me. And that was a remark she made both before Quinton was born and after he was born.
Yes.
Can I conclude from that then that Bubba had already left her before Quinton was born?
Yes.
There's at least, sounds like 1 or 2 times where she said this, like, while Quinton was a newborn.
Yes. A newborn and while he was older, too.
Now, I want to kind of move forward in time. Did you remain in contact with her to one degree or another over the phone throughout Quinton's short life?
Yes.
Okay. And let's say from, between Quinton's birth to October of 2022, how often would you say you were in contact with her during that time frame? And I understand it's like a year and a half.
Yes. So, I'm trying to think. So she came to my son's party in 2019 with Danny. I asked her to bring the boys, and she said that her mom had them. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to remember.
No, it's fine.
What was the question again, sir?
Okay. About how often were you, let's just talk about, I don't know, the year leading up to October of 2022.
Okay.
When Quinton is no longer a newborn, okay?
Yes.
How often would you be in contact with her at that point?
At that point, so it could be weekly sometimes, and then it would jump from weekly to monthly. And then I would have to be in contact with her. I would sometimes not get any contacts back for a few months. Then it come out the blue, she'll contact me, and we can go from talking to each other for like 2 weeks straight, and then there'd be gaps again.
But in any case, it sounds like you never cut off contact completely.
No.
And would you, during this time frame, would you still sometimes have these long, extended phone conversations with her?
We did.
And would she talk to you about things that were going on in her life?
Yes.
And could you hear the children in the background at times?
Always.
Was there ever a time on any of these calls that you heard anything concerning directed towards Quinton?
I mean, besides, may I repeat what was said? It's cursing. Or should I blurt it?
Whatever your response is, you may give it.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted your permission.
So the rules here are, if you're, quoting, we would ask that you not just like insert your own.
No, I just want to hit
But
what she exactly
if
said.
you're quoting somebody, yeah, tell us what you heard.
Okay. There's been times when she has been getting on to Quinton, saying, "Will you get the fuck down, you stupid little shit." She will call them assholes. "You little assholes, I told you to go do this. Now go do what the fuck I said before I beat your ass." Called him a bastard child out of anger. I guess he was doing something like climbing on the table, and she told him to get down several times. And she's like, this is why I wish I never had you. Wish I would have aborted you," and stuff like that.
And I just want to make it clear the circumstances in which you're hearing this. Are you physically present with her when you're hearing these things?
No, sir.
Right. You're on the phone with her?
Yes.
And you can hear her saying these things over the phone?
Yes.
Okay. let's kind of break these things down. You said something about her calling him a bastard child and said
Yes.
something about his dad.
Yes.
Tell us what you remember about that.
I know when she would get really frustrated with him that she can be unpredictable and say things very harshly that a normal mother would not say. And about, I wish I never had you, wish I would have had an abortion. So I wish I never had your dad. Got with your dad, so I would have never had you. Stuff like that.
And are you sure she was referring to Quinton? for
Yes.
instance? And how do you know that?
Because she would yell, "Quinton, what the fuck did I just tell you?" And then go on with what I just said.
I think you also mentioned asshole or something.
Yes, asshole. For him acting like a 15-year-old acting, or a 15-month-old acting like an asshole.
Could you tell over the phone what he was doing, or if anything, or what was going on that caused her to have these outbursts?
I could hear the kids playing, screaming, running around, like what kids do. I have 3 kids myself, 2 boys and a daughter. So boys being boys, they get rough with each other. And, that happens, okay? But instead of hey, you guys can keep your hands to yourself, time out and do the separate them or whatever, she would start cussing and snapping and yelling and calling names. Now,
How would you react, if at all? I don't know whether you.
I was speechless, sir. I would try to be like, hey, calm down. You're just mad. You don't need to be saying those kinds of things. You don't mean it, thinking, she didn't mean it. That was my assumptions. Okay, but I would try to calm her down and be like, hey, chill out. Take a breather. They're just kids. They're little kids. This is going to happen.
Did you ever hear anything that sounded? You've talked about what you talked about to this point. Would you characterize it as verbal abuse?
Yes, and I've heard her whip them, but I can't, like I said, it's whoopings, so I don't know if she's using her hand on their butt. I don't know what she's using. It's on the phone call.
Okay, so for that, you're saying you can't say whether it was or was not reasonable parental discipline?
Exactly.
But you've heard stuff like that?
Yes.
Did overall, based on all your interactions with her and all your observations, did you develop the impression that she felt differently about Quinton than she did about Zane?
Yes, because every time I would speak to her, she would always speak highly about Zane and her youngest one after she was born, but never about Quinton, even though he was the sweetest little thing ever.
What kind of things would she say about Zane?
Talking about how well he is, how smart he is, how he knows his ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, so on and so forth, the potty training, stuff about Cody and her, just talking highly about him and how good he's doing from when I last seen him as a little baby.
And do you remember hearing anything like that about Quinton?
No.
Just to be clear, did you ever yourself physically meet Quinton?
I have never physically met Quinton, no.
And is that because you all had already she had
This
moved
part
away
is- right.
at the time before she had?
But yes, I have FaceTimed him after he was born and seen him, I FaceTimed him and Zane and Sky when she was a little baby too.
One moment, please.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Bowling, you said that you met Ms. Simon in 2019 with Danny.
No, I met her in 2017, 2018 when she was dating Cody.
All right. Well, maybe I misheard. You said you met her in 2019 at a birthday party with Danny.
She brought Danny to my son's birthday party that I invited her and her children to come to in 2019.
Okay, so you're saying that Danny Youngkin attended a birthday party with you in 2019 with Miss Simon, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's the hill you're going to die on.
I believe that was Danny, yeah. That's who it looked like.
All right. Are you aware that she didn't meet Mr. Youngkin until 2020?
So that's not what I'm not aware of. I say because she brought that man to my birthday party.
Well, you just sat here under oath and said it was Danny Youngkin.
That's what she told me that was his name, Danny, that she was bringing through messages on Facebook Messenger, sir.
Ms. Bowling, when was the last time you actually physically, well, let me ask you this. When did you ever physically meet Quinton Simon?
I never physically met him.
Okay, so in 20 months of his life, you never once saw him in person, correct?
Correct.
Right? And when was the last time prior to that that you had met and hung out with Miss Simon?
Prior to his birth?
His birth.
Okay, prior to his birth was the birthday party, 2019.
Okay. So at least 2.5 years prior, well, maybe a year and a half prior to his birth then?
Well, actually, that was, yeah, roughly, yeah.
Okay. So at that point in time, had Zane been born?
Yes.
Okay. So, now you said that originally y'all would talk every day. Then it was weekly, then it was every other week, then it was monthly, then it was every few months, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Not really a strong friendship there, is it?
Well, sir, we did have a very strong friendship, but again, like I've said before, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and the path she was going down was a path that I clearly could not help her out.
Ms. Bowling, you and Miss Simon started smoking weed together in 2017, so let's not pretend this is some sort of Sunday
yeah,
school
you're
thing.
right, sir, okay? But the thing is, I never done cocaine, I never did ecstasy, nor pills.
Okay.
That was in 2017, sir.
That was.
That was a long time ago, and I don't anymore.
Okay. Well, congratulations to you. And that being said, was that the reason y'all hung out, was to smoke weed together?
No. The reason well, maybe for her, because she likes to use people, but to me, it was, hanging out with Cody, helping him get back on his feet, because of what he had to endure and go through at that time, which is a different matter from this court.
You have some rather unique beliefs, don't you, Miss Bowling?
Believes.
Yes.
Can you define that, please, or elaborate it for me, please?
I can. Do you remember meeting with Mr. Dean on August 13th of this year?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember telling him about some experiences you had on August 13th and conveying those to him?
Yep.
Okay. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not tell him that you had communed with Quinton Simon's ghost?
Yes, and if you would like, I can actually do it here and show you guys.
Oh, please, by all means. I would love to see this.
Give me a holy Bible and a candle, and yes, sir.
So, that being said, you told Mr. Dean this, correct?
I sure did.
And you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, your husband videotaped the seance, correct?
He did.
And anytime I'm making a misstatement as to what you said that Quinton Simon spoke to you through a candle.
He spoke to me through images.
Okay.
Okay, when I was in my trance, I couldn't see anything except for what he was showing me and what he was telling me as a 15-month-old could do.
Okay. And so he was a 15-month-old ghost speaking to you. Please tell me about this. I would love to hear it.
Okay, so this is what I did, and I lit my candle, had my Bible out, and I prayed. I asked if I could reach out to Quinton Simon, and here he comes. Behold. Do I see him physically? No. But here he is, and he is Mama Mel. That's what I was always called by them. Mama Mel, help me. I said, with what? I said, help me help you. What happened? He said, Mommy hurt me. I asked him, how did he hurt you? Or how did she hurt you? Sorry. And he told me, she hit me in the head really hard. I said, okay. I was like, what else? And I said, did you, get any candy, thinking maybe he got into drugs or something? And he said, no. I said, okay, where are you? And he threw me the star of a church that's next to the landfill, on that dirt road right there, next to Little Neck Road, on the dump. He showed me exactly where he was in that pile, with his arm hanging out, lifeless, gray, and there's blood, in a bag that looked like it used to be like a bluish purple color, and he's throwing up blood. After I closed out the seance, I prayed, and I said, I wish you peace, and to pass on peacefully, and you'll get the justice you need. Okay, I prayed, closed it out, that was that. Blew out the candle, turned on the lights, and my hoverboard that both my son had, that was completely destroyed, because he took it through a mud puddle. When you take a hoverboard, electric hoverboard through a mud puddle, it's done. It started turning on and off by itself and moving, even though it's completely done for, and I've tried charging it and nothing.
And what date was this?
What day was that? That was, to be honest with you, sometime in November of 2022. I don't know the exact day. I do not.
So this was after they announced they found remains in the landfill?
No, this is actually before the indictment report came out. I had the dream, which I told them already, but yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So it was in November, correct?
roughly maybe the end of October. It's in that time area. I also had a major craniotomy that year, so my memory's a little.
What's a craniotomy?
Where you have to have a major brain surgery. They take your skull off, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you had a craniotomy,
I did.
and you told all this to Mr. Dean.
To Mr. Yes.
Mr. Dean. That's all the questions I have.
Melanie, is it fair to say that I brought you into my office to talk about concrete things that you heard the defendant say over the years about Quinton?
Yes,
Okay. And that you volunteered the information about the seance, right?
I did.
Um,
Because I don't know if you guys recognize that kind of stuff or not.
And do you remember me telling you, well, I have to tell the defense about this because it's a thing you've said as a witness, but that it's seance information is not admissible in court.
Exactly, yes, sir.
And do you remember acknowledging pretty even-handedly that you understand that not everybody believes in these things?
I do, and that's why I didn't want to speak upon it like that. Yes, sir.
Now, you've said that you had a Bible with you while you were doing this,
Yes.
and it was a Christian Bible.
Yes, sir. I was baptized and raised as a Christian.
Do you remain a practicing Christian?
I sure do, sir.
Do you consider this some sort of a prayer practice, what you're describing?
Yes, sir. I mean, in a way,
Do you consider it a private matter?
a private matter, yes.
How does it feel to come into court and essentially get made fun of for it?
You to be honest with you, it's kind of embarrassing because, like you said, not everybody believes in this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I was born with a gift that I call a curse.
Now, does any of this have anything to do with the things that you heard her say about her son, both before and after his birth?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bowling, you're willing to hold yourself up to ridicule to get justice for Quinton, aren't you?
Excuse me?
Said you're willing to hold yourself up to public ridicule to get justice for Quinton, aren't you?
I guess so. I'm here to get justice for him, so.
What aren't you willing to do for Quinton's justice?
Well, I've done everything I can possibly for his justice.
Thank you so much.
Anything further from the state?
No, no.
Thank you, ma'am.
This way, ma'am. Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
And as we begin, this is the point at which we want the cameras diverted from from the witness's face, from Ms. McCarter's face.
The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Step this way now.
Good afternoon. And before we begin, are we good on camera, Engel?
Yes, but we got her when she was being sworn in because we didn't know that that was the witness that was sensitive, so we'll have to tell everybody not to use that footage.
All right. Thank you, Grace. All right. All right, Mr. Dean.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Where do you live? What city and state? Not the address.
Savannah, Georgia.
Do you live on Buckhalter Road?
Yes, sir.
And did your family used to provide babysitting services for the defendant's 3 children?
Yes, sir.
Have I asked you how old you are yet? I'm sorry, I'm tired.
No, sir.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
Are you in school?
Yes, sir.
Where are you in school?
Homeschool.
Okay, and what grade are you in?
I'm 10. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Okay, that's all right. If you need a break at any point, just let me know, okay?
Yes, sir.
I understand you're starting a new job tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Where are you going to be working?
At Larry's Giant Subs.
Is that your first big girl job, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you know Quinton Simon?
Yes, sir.
How did you come to know him?
Through my mom and them and Miss Sandra.
And tell us about, well, who's Miss Sandra, first of all?
Miss Sandra is Tommy, Billy Joe's husband's sister.
Okay, and how do you, when you say you know him through Miss Sandra, what do you mean by that?
Miss Sandra went to church with us, and she just came up to my mom and sister and asked if my sister could babysit them.
Okay, and is that how the babysitting stuff started?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the beginning of that. How did it play out?
Miss Sandra had came and knocked on the door and asked if my mom could babysit some kids, and my mom said, well, I'll be working, but I can ask my daughter, and my sister said yes.
And what's your sister's name?
Maritza McCarta.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's older than me.
How old is she now?
19 years old.
Okay, so going forward from that, did you all start babysitting the kids?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and between the two of you, you and your older sister, Did one or the other have responsibility for one or the other kids? It's kind of a confusing question, but do you understand what I mean?
Yes, sir. My sister really had most of the responsibility, but I would be there to play with Quinton stuff and Zane.
Were you and your sister, were you or her closer to Quinton than the other?
It was both of us. Yes, sir. We really loved both of us.
Tell us about spending time with Quinton. Where would you spend time with him?
Throughout the whole house, Quinton, he would open the door, like when it was cracked, he would push it open with his hand. He'll come in there and he'll love on you.
What door are we talking about here?
The bedroom door.
In your house?
Yes, sir.
And what do you mean by he come in and love on you?
Like, he'll run to you, open his arms, and just throw himself on you and give you a kiss on the cheek.
Did you like spending time with Quinton?
Yes, sir.
Now, was there ever a time where you spent time around Quinton and Leilani together?
Yes, sir.
And during those times, did you ever see her treat him in a way that upset you?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about any of those times?
With the console, like the PlayStation remote control, when she said that Quinton had got a hold of it, and it was the night before, and I guess she still got mad talking about it, so she pushed him down.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit. Where were you when this push happened?
She was by the tiki bar, and I was by closer towards the pool, where the little step is.
Okay, so whose house were you at?
Billy Joe's.
Okay. You're out back between the tiki bar area and the pool.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was it that caused Leilani to push Quinton?
She got mad because he had supposedly broken the controller to her PS4.
Okay. And how did this come up?
When I walked up, I asked her if I could get Quinton, and she said yes, please take him. And then she just led off the conversation because he got a hold. I'm pretty sure she said it was her brother controller, and he was going to be mad at her.
And what time of day was this?
I'm going to say around 2.
In the afternoon, I presume?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said you came up. Where were you coming from?
I was coming from my mom's house.
And where was Leilani?
Leilani was outside.
Okay. In the back there?
Yes, sir.
And where was Quinton?
Quinton was inside.
Okay. And you said you were coming over to see if you could get Quinton.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
I know the night before her and Danny was arguing or something, and she had called my phone to see if I could come get him, and it was like around 4 in the morning, and I told her I wasn't allowed at the house that late, and I didn't want to wake my mom up. She had work the next morning, but I would be over there the next day to grab him for my sister.
Did you say she called you or she texted you? I didn't catch that.
She called me.
Okay. She called you at like 4 in the morning and asked you to come take Quinton?
Yes, sir.
And why did she want you to do that?
She was getting aggravated with him.
Okay. So it's the next day that you went over to get him?
Yes, sir.
And what were you going to do with him?
I was going to grab him and take him over to our house.
All right. And is that something that you would do from time to time? Come and get him and just take him?
Every day.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Was he like your buddy?
Sir?
Was he like your buddy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you come up, you said Quinton's inside, and Leilani is out back by the pool, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were there to get Quinton.
Yes, sir.
And at some point she pushed him.
Yes, sir.
At what point did he go from being inside to outside?
He had walked up to the door. You could see through it. So he had walked up and put his hands and his mouth against the door, and he was happy. And she opened the door. She put the door handle and she pushed it open, and she was continuing telling me the story. And Quinton started saying bubbles. He wanted bubbles. And she pushed him, took her hand and pushed the middle of his chest and pushed him.
And what was the bubbles thing about? He said he wanted bubbles?
He loved bubbles.
Okay. Are you talking about like soap bubbles that you blow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When she pushed him, what did she use to push him with first?
Her hand.
And where did she put her hand on his body?
Right here, in the middle.
And at that point, her hand's on his chest, and what does she do?
She pushes him.
And what happened to him when she pushed him?
He falls on his butt.
And what did he do?
He looked at me and held his arms out and started crying. And I told Leilani that upsetted me.
And what did you do with it? You okay?
I'm good, I'm sorry.
When he fell, what part of his body hit? Did he fall on the ground, I guess?
Yes, sir. His tush hit the floor.
Okay. And so he started crying and reached out his arms to you.
Yes, sir.
Did you pick him up?
Yes, sir.
And did you say anything to Leilani?
I told her that wasn't necessary because it happened last night, but she should have talked to him first.
And what happened from there?
I took him. I walked him home with me. I don't know what she did after.
So you talked about that one push. Was there anything else that you remember that was like that?
The pool incident.
What's the pool incident?
It was me and my sister, and I believe 2 of my nephews with me over at her pool swimming. And Zane had got in the pool, and Quinton wanted in there. And I was fixing to go grab Quinton to put him in there, but instead of her listening to me tell her, hold on, let me get his floaty on, she just full on pushed him in the pool.
Pushed him with what?
Her hand,
And where on his body did she make contact with him?
the back,
Like middle of the back, upper back, lower back?
the middle. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And she just pushed him into the pool?
Yes, sir.
And he didn't have any floaties on, it sounds like?
No, sir.
Okay. Was he able to swim at this point?
No, sir.
What happened once he was pushed into the pool?
He went underwater, and when he came back out, he caught his breath, trying to catch his breath, and then he started crying.
Was he coughing or anything?
Yes, sir.
And how did Leilani react to that?
She said she really didn't care because if Zane could learn how to swim, then Quinton needed to be as smart as Zane.
Now, what did you do when Quinton came up and was coughing and crying?
I looked at my sister and I told her I'm going home, and then that's when I asked Leilani, I said, can I take Quinton home? She said, yes, I don't care.
And how were you feeling at that point?
I was mad because wondering in my head how she could push him in the pool knowing without any floaties and knowing he can't swim at all.
How was Quinton as you were walking home with him? Did you dry him off or anything first? Or?
I did dry him off. I wrapped him in a towel and he laid his head on my shoulder.
And what happened when you got home?
When I got home, I had put a pull-up on him, and he went and laid on the couch with his teddy bear.
And did you lay on the couch with him, or did you just leave him alone, or what?
I went to go fix him some juice, and then I laid on the couch with him.
How long did y'all lay there?
About 2 hours because he had fell asleep. Yes, sir.
Did you take a nap there with him?
No, sir, because I was afraid I was going to squish him if I fell asleep with him.
Anything else you remember that was like those two things?
Other than her getting mad at him with the stairs and stuff.
Tell me about that.
It was one night when I went over there and she was smoking. She had went upstairs and she was talking to me about Quinton's father. And she said she don't know how Quinton could look so much like his dad when she's the one that gave birth to him. And I said, well, I don't know, because I didn't want to really get into that kind of stuff. It wasn't my problem. And she just kept going on about it, and Quinton was down the stairs. And I said, Leilani, he needs help down the stairs because I had Sky in my hands. And she said, he's a big boy, he can do it. I said, no, he can't, because her stairs in Billy Joe's house was kind of weird. And I said, he needs help. She said, no, he doesn't. And Quinton just continues to roll.
Are you talking about the stairs to the second floor?
Yes, sir.
You said Quinton continues to roll. What do you mean?
When he tripped on the first one, and he starts rolling down. And I hand her Sky, and I grab Quinton.
How was Quinton when you picked him up?
He was fine. He really didn't cry.
Okay. Anything else you remember that was like that?
No, sir.
You mentioned that incident started with her asking or wondering how he could look so much like his father. What was her tone of voice like when she was saying that? I mean, she sounded happy, angry, sad.
She sounded angry.
Do you remember if you seem like a pretty mild-mannered person?
Yes, sir.
But if I asked you to tell me what it sounded like when she said it, would you be able to do that or not?
Yes, sir. You want the whole, just how she said it?
Yeah.
When I walked in, she was like, hey, I got a question. I said, yes. And she said, how the F could Quinton look just like his daddy? I'm the one that gave birth to him. And I said, I don't know, Leilani. I really don't know. She said, Zane's been my number one since he was born, and Quinton's just sitting there and useless.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Do you remember telling us last week about an incident where Leilani hit Quinton in the face? I think backhanded was the word you used.
Yes, sir.
You remember telling us about that?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that now?
From the beginning, correct?
Yeah.
Zane and Quinton was out in the street. I was walking to the shed because that's where our laundry room that is.
Were you at your house at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said you have a laundry room in the shed?
Yes, sir.
So what were you walking out to the shed to do?
Do my chores, which was transfer the clothes from the washer into the dryer.
And at what point did you see Zane and Quinton?
When I was going towards the shed.
And what were they doing?
They were by the mailboxes on the other side of the road, going inside the ditch.
Okay. Were they in the road or next to the road or what?
They were in the road.
Okay. And were there any adults with them?
No, sir.
What time of day was this?
It was a little bit in the morning. I'm gonna say around 11 or 12.
Okay. And when you saw him out there, what did you do?
I ran
Ran where?
to get Quinton and Zane.
And what happened next?
As I was going to get them, there was a white car passing with a lady inside of it.
I'm sorry to stop you. I don't mean to interrupt you because you asked from the beginning and I did say yes, right?
Yes, sir.
But I don't want you to tell us anything about what anybody said to you other than things that the defendant said to you, okay?
Yes, sir.
So let's skip the white car part, all right? So after the white car drove by, what happened next?
I took the kids back to my mom's house. My mom told me to take them to Leilani's. So,
Don't testify about anything anybody else said.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Okay, so you went back to your house and you said at some point did you take them back to Leilani's house?
Yes, sir.
And why did you do that?
My mom told me to.
Okay. And where did you take them when you took them back?
I took them when I entered. It was behind where the pool part is, the
Okay.
back.
So you walked around the back
Yes, sir.
and you had both of the kids with you at this point?
Yes, sir.
What happened from there?
I kept knocking on the door. Leilani would not answer, and I kept banging and banging. I just continued to bang until she answered. She came outside, and I said, Leilani, Quinton and them was on the road, and she was asleep. And instead of her taking the knowledge of what she had done and wasn't awake with them, she just backhanded Quinton in the face.
Can you describe that in a little more detail? What did it look like?
She raised her hand all the way back, and she just backhanded him. When she did, his head hit the concrete.
Where on his face did her hand hit him?
Right here.
And you're gesturing, I gotta say this for the court reporter and the transcript and all that, you're gesturing towards like your cheekbone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that this knocked him down?
Yes, sir.
Did she hit him hard?
Yes, sir.
And when he fell down, what happened?
I looked at her, and then he started crying. He got up. When I lifted him up, he got up and he ran to me, and he started pointing to my mom's house.
Did you say that his head hit the concrete out there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he ran to you, and you said he started pointing?
Yes, sir. Pointing directions to my mom's house.
Were you holding him at that point, or was he still on the ground, or what?
I think it was after a minute I did pick him up. Yes, sir.
Okay. And his pointing towards your house, what did you take that to mean?
I knew he wanted to go with me, but Leilani wanted them to stay.
Okay. Did you take him home?
I believe I took Quinton home because she didn't want me taking Zane home.
Were there any other incidents you remember that involved the defendant, Leilani, pushing him, hitting him, or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Was there anything that you heard, other than what you've already mentioned, and you've talked about some of this stuff, was there anything that you ever heard her say that caused you to believe that she didn't like Quinton or didn't feel the same way about him that she felt about Zane?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about those things, that if the ones that you haven't mentioned yet?
Yes, sir. She would call me over there and ask if she could talk to me. And I would go over there, and she would just complain about Quinton, how Quinton wasn't like Zane. He wasn't smart like Zane. And that the only reason that she loved Zane and she didn't love Quinton is because Zane's been through everything with her, and Quinton hasn't been through nothing.
Did she ever point blank tell you anything about whether she had any feelings of love or affection towards Quinton at all?
Yes, sir. She told me she did not love him at all.
She said that to you?
Yes, sir.
Where was that when she said that?
We was on the back porch. He was in on the back porch. There's like a play area with a gate.
Is that with the brown couch in it and slide and stuff like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who was, you were out there, was Quinton out there?
I was in the plaything with Quinton, and she was by the tiki bar.
Okay. How did that come up, that she's saying that about Quinton at that time?
She was mad at Danny.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And how did it get on to Quinton and saying that about Quinton?
Because Quinton was making noises with his mouth and saying he was calling out for Danny. He kept saying, Danny, Danny. And she kept getting mad about that.
She was mad at Danny at the time?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And Quinton was calling out for Danny?
Yes, sir.
And that's what led up to her saying that thing about Quinton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Quinton ever stay the night at your house?
Oh, yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, sir. We would have Quinton for weeks at a time at our house. She never called to check on Quinton. But we never complained about it because we really enjoyed Quinton being at our house, being able to love on him. And I'm sorry.
You miss him?
Yes, sir.
Think you're ready to be done with this now?
It doesn't matter. I'm fine.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there times where Quinton would sleep over at your house, but the other kids would?
Yes, sir.
How did that come about? How did that happen?
When Leilani would say she's coming to pick up the kids, she would be like, "Oh, I'm coming," or "Danny's coming to pick up the kids." Quinton would never want to go when it was her, so she was like, "He could just stay here. It's fine."
How was Danny with Quinton and the kids?
Danny loved the kids a lot. He was good with them. He treated them how they were supposed to be treated.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Em, the last time you were asked to talk about these incidents with us, you noted that these incidents happened in May, June, and July of 2022. Is that correct?
I didn't say. I said I didn't know the exact months.
Okay, well, the different incidents we've talked about.
Yes, sir.
All the incidents that you named, can you tell me when they happened?
No, sir, I cannot.
Okay. And when you saw them happen, the things that you've described here in court, did you call anybody like the police?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you call anybody like DFACS to report Leilani?
No, sir, I did not.
The PlayStation controller push you described, he fell back on his bottom,
Yes, sir.
okay? Did you see any kind of a bruise or a mark or a cut or anything on Quinton as a result of the push you say you saw?
Not at the time, no, sir.
And the pool incident, obviously that was in the warmer months, but you can't say when that happened either, can you?
I know it was in summer sometime, but I don't know the exact month.
Okay. And in Savannah, summer can be a pretty long time.
Yes, sir.
Same question as before, did you call the police about it, or DFACS, or any authority to report Leilani Simon?
No, sir, I did not.
The stairs incident, I think he went down the stairs and you got to him, but he didn't cry, did he?
Not for long. He didn't really let out a long one.
And you didn't see any marks or injuries or bruises?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, what kind?
It was a bruise on right here by his head.
Okay. Now the roadway incident,
Yes, sir.
okay. As I understand it, you were at your house and you saw the boys out there near the road.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you went there, actually you ran to them, did you not?
Yes, sir, I did.
Because you recognized kids in a roadway with cars going by can be a very dangerous situation, can't it?
Yes, sir.
And it can be very upsetting.
Yes, sir.
And you knocked on the door, but couldn't get an answer right.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea how Zane and Quinton then got out of the house on their own?
Zane knew how to open doors.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And right now, in recounting these different incidents, you can't give an exact date about when they happened, can you?
No, sir, I cannot.
And we've already established you didn't call the police about it, call any authority or any DFACS to report what happened.
No, sir, I did not.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dean, any regret?
When these things would happen, was there anybody you tell?
I would tell my mom.
No further questions.
Ms. McCarter, you're excused.
Thank you.